You're listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith, and the interview subject that you're tuned in to listen to is Marcus Siepen from the German power metal Overlords. Has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Overlords. Blind Guardian. The reason for the conversation is to promote the 2017 live release, Live Beyond the Spheres. So let's have a listen to what Marcus has to say about it. Here we go. Is releasing a 3-CD live album called Live Beyond the Spheres on July 7th via Nuclear Blast. Got to get that out, Nuclear Blast. Tell the audience about
it. Well, we've been on the road for almost 2 years, the tour for our previous album, which was called Beyond the Red Mirror. And we felt that the time is right to do another live album because the previous live album has been 14 years ago, something like that. And so since the release of that previous live album, there have been 3 new studio albums. There has been a lineup change, so we never ever released anything live with our new drummer, Frederick, who came into the band in 2004. And we just felt it was the right time. So we recorded pretty much every single show on that tour. And yeah, so we had tons of material to choose from, and we tried to put together the typical kind of set list as it happened on that tour for the album. And we were lucky that we could get away with a 3-CD package, so we could squeeze in all those songs. Yeah. And I think it gives people a good overview of what has been happening for us during those 2 years, and the people that love the shows should really dig the album, I guess.
No, very good point about that one there. So, Blind Guardian have always produced engaging artwork as well, and this new album is no different. How important is the visual aspect of the band?
I think it's very important because we try to deliver a complete package. You know, it's not if we put out a CD, it's not only about the music. I mean, obviously the music is the main aspect about Blind Guardian, but the booklets, the cover artworks, images within the booklets, photos, whatever, all that plays a big role in my opinion, because after all, I'm a collector myself. You know, I started collecting back then in the day it was vinyl, but later on CDs, whatever. I still collect stuff. You know, when I like an album, I want to buy it. I want to have it in my collection, and I always prefer the real nice packages. You know, if it's the bigger booklets or if there's bonus CDs or any stuff like that. You know, I think all that plays a role because after all, people are paying for your product, hopefully.
Sure. Hopefully, that's right these days. Yeah.
We always try to give them value for money, and that's not limited to the music. So yeah, that visual aspect is pretty important in my opinion.
So you have been giving fans value for money now for a very long time. You've been producing high quality heavy metal since your first album, correct me if I'm wrong, which is Battalions of Fear, that was released in 1988. Can you believe that's almost 30 years ago?
It's amazing, yeah. It's quite some time ago.
I know, time has gone so quickly. Even I can remember, I'm 39, but I can remember 1988, maybe not as if it was yesterday, but it certainly doesn't feel 30 years ago. But, for your good self, mate, did you think that you would spend your entire adult life performing and recording heavy metal?
Let's put it like this. I was dreaming about this. I mean, this was our clear goal when we started the band. We were just a bunch of kids that loved metal and that wanted to play in this band together. And we wanted to fulfill our dreams. And the big dream obviously was becoming a professional band, recording albums, being able to tour and all that stuff. And obviously there was never any guarantee that it would work because, there are no guarantees in this business, But the funny thing is, we never doubted it. For us, we were convinced back from day one on that we would make it. For whatever reason, I don't know. But, we were convinced there was never any plan B or anything because we didn't feel a need for plan B because our plan A was make it with Blind Guardian. And, that was the way to go. And
for sure.
We put all the work and effort into it. We were rehearsing every single day back then. And we were putting all the money that we earned with the first couple of albums, we put it into the band, buying equipment, whether it was instruments or studio recording equipment, whatever. And we step by step built our own studio and all that stuff. But back then, obviously, we had no fucking clue that, like 30 years later, now I would be sitting here talking to you about what we started so long ago. But no, it's perfect. Our attitude never changed. We're still willing to put all the effort, all the work into the band to take the next step, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
And I guess that's why we're still here. And the most important reason is we still love what we're doing. It's still a blast to be in that band. It's still awesome to be able to go on the road and play gigs for people anywhere on this planet. And, it's a dream come true. It sounds like a cliche answer, but it is.
No, because it's completely understandable. But my next question would be, I talk to a lot of musicians over the globe, and I talk to a lot of musicians locally. Now, this statement usually comes from local musicians, so musicians in Australia. They find touring very difficult, being away from family, being not so much being away from Australia, but just the grind of being in a place that's very different from Australia for extreme lengths of time. How have you guys survived that aspect of it? The waiting at the airports and missing buses for connecting flights and trips and travelling across Europe and the like. How has the band managed to stay more or less? You guys have, you've already mentioned that you've had a change of drummer, but for the most part, your lineup's remained intact for 30 years.
First of all, I have to confirm, yes, touring is, or it can be very tiresome, and being away from your families is the hardest part of being in this business, obviously, because, as I mentioned before, our last tour lasted for 21 months. And, it's not like you're leaving home in the morning and come back at night and, at a regular working day. Yeah. So it's something completely different. What works for us is we separate between touring periods and writing periods. So once a tour for us is done, we normally don't play many gigs anymore until the next album is done. So we're kind of bouncing between extremes. Either we're on the road for 2 years, or after that we're 2 years at home working on new material, recording it, whatever. And when we tour, we cut it. It's not that we're constantly on the road for 21 months. We're doing it in little blocks. So this time the blocks were a little bigger. We've been in Europe for 3 months nonstop, but then we had like 4 or 5 weeks at home. Regain energy, spend some time with the families. Then we hit the USA for like another, I don't remember, 7 weeks or something like that.
Sure.
Came back home again for a couple of weeks, then went to Australia and Japan, came back home for a couple of weeks. We're trying to squeeze in some time at home in between those blocks. And that helps to keep you sane, because, if any one of us would be on a nightliner or on planes and hotels and all that stuff for 2 years in a row, we would go nuts. Because, there's one thing you can immediately say goodbye to is privacy on tour, because the privacy that you have on a nightliner is the curtain that you can close in front of your bed, and that's it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So days off when you have a hotel are precious, because then at least you have your room, you can close the door behind you. And the funny thing is, I love everybody in the band, in the crew. That's a whole family. Everybody is friends with each other, so that also helps, of course. But still, after such a long time, you really enjoy just not seeing the same people day in, day out. So on a day off, when you can just shut the door behind you and just relax a bit on your own and call home or do whatever, that helps. And obviously, technology helps as well. Everybody has a cell phone in his pocket now, and you can do video calls or whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
That helps. I remember days, when we've been touring in the 90s, we had to line up in front of the production office, and everybody was waiting to make a phone call from a phone there, and everyone else behind you in the line was bitching when you talked longer than 5 minutes, whatever. So things got easier, but still, yeah, touring is tiresome. And the most tiresome aspect about it is that waiting, because
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, when we're on tour, I'm working like 2.5 hours at night, and maybe I'll do some interviews during the day, and the rest of the time, I'm trying to kill. And that means you be a tourist, you check out places, or you just stay in the hotel and try to relax and sleep or do whatever. But most of the time, you are waiting for something to happen. And that can become very tiresome, even though, if you think about it, yeah, it's not a problem to kill some time. You can read a book, you can walk around, you can watch a movie, you can do many things. But if you do it day in, day out, at some point you don't feel like doing it.
Yeah,
You want to
I
do
can
something
appreciate.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah, but still, on the other hand, I still love touring so much. It's a part of this job, and being on stage actually to me is the absolute highlight about being a musician.
Yeah, it is. You sort of you will. There's no question. You live for those 2.5 hours on stage each evening, don't you?
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, that's this writing and creating music and building it up in the studio is awesome. But this direct feedback that you get from the fans when you hit stage and start playing, nothing compares to that.
So, I read that you're a gamer. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you are perfectly right.
So, tell me about your interest in gaming then.
It started as a kid, when the first video game consoles came out in the early 80s, late 70s, whatever. My father brought some at home and I got addicted immediately, and it never stopped. So I love playing on my PC at home. When we're on tour, I have all kinds of consoles with me, PlayStation Vita, and I just bought the Nintendo Switch console, which is amazing and stuff like that. And just gaming is a very nice way of killing time. It has always been a hobby of mine to play nice games, and especially since there are things like laptops or those portable consoles, which started back with the old Game Boy
Yeah, of
I think I
course.
got my
I remember
Boy
that.
in
Yeah.
1990 or something like that. So that's very handy to have something like this on the road. And the typical thing is Andre and Frederick are also into video games a lot, and sometimes we sit in the nightliner and we connect our consoles and do battles of Mario Kart or Bomberman or whatever. Those good old fun games.
Yes. Yeah, I do that at home with my
It's
wife and kids. Yeah.
Yeah, see, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
It's just fun. It's a very nice way of killing time.
Who wins the Mario Kart games between you guys?
Most of the times, Frederick, he's a bit better than me, I would say.
He's the sharp
I,
one.
I'm yeah, I'm practicing now, so next time I'll kill him.
So, just asking another question about your music and your involvement with music. You were a member of Sinbreed. Do you think you'd ever
Yes.
return to the band?
I don't think so because for the reason it didn't work now, I think that reason would not change. I loved being in the band. I loved the guys. It was so much fun. I loved the album that we made together. But the problem is, any side project, whatever it might be, for me can only work if I can focus on the side project in times when Blind Guardian is not active.
Yep.
Because once Blind Guardian becomes active, there is no room for anything else. Then 100% of my focus is on Blind Guardian. And we had that meeting within Sinbreed by the end of 2014 where we talked about how we would continue. And the guys wanted to start working on new songs and record them and whatever in 2015. And, that meeting happened exactly like 4 weeks before we put out Beyond the Red Mirror. And I was like, guys, this is not going to work for me because,
Yeah.
in 4 weeks, put out a Blind Guardian album, then the promo machinery will be there and then we'll be on the road for 2 years. There is no room for me to work or focus in any way on Sinbreed.
Hmm.
And obviously, I can't demand from them that they sit around wait for me to be done with whatever after 2 years. So I fully understand that they wanted to continue, but that just made me draw a line there and say, okay, then, I wish you all the best. And that really comes from my heart. I wish them all the best. But I stepped back from the band because it would not be doable for me. And in the end, they recorded another
Yeah.
album. They played a tour, but also Frederick, who obviously still is in Sinbreed, could not take part in the tour because he was on tour with us. And that's not what I wanted for myself. Everybody has to obviously find his own way of dealing with things. For me, that would not have been an option. Either if I'm in Sinbreed as well, then I want to be able to focus on Sinbreed whenever they are active. And when that is not possible, I step back.
Yeah, fair enough. And
That's why I don't really see me returning to the band, because the problem would stay the same, I guess.
yeah,
And as I said, I'm not blaming them or anything. I can fully understand that they don't want to wait 2 years before they could do anything again. But that's why I just left the band at that point.
that makes sense. And my next question might actually offer a solution, because insofar as you are a revered guitarist, people do enjoy listening to you play, and you recently No, I can assure you they do. Yeah, there's no question about that. So, you recently collaborated, and I hope I say the band's name correctly here, Metacross, on the track "How Can I Know How I Am." Now,
Yes.
how did that collaboration come about? Because this is a very interesting collaboration. Now, correct me if I'm wrong again. This was the first track that I've ever heard you play or perform on where the vocalist used a death metal style vocal.
That's correct. And the collaboration, those guys are friends of mine since years. My wife is from Brazil, and those guys are
Right.
from the city where she's from. So I know them since ages. And,
Okay.
at some point when they were working on that CD, they asked me if I would be interested in, doing a lead or a solo or anything on one of their songs. And I immediately said yes, because, I like such things. If the time is there and, I like the music, why not? And I'm really digging their stuff. I think they're a very original band. And, Vinicius, the singer, he sent me the track, and I just recorded my stuff in here. They said, you can do whatever you want to do, play whatever you want to play, wherever you want to play. And, I recorded a couple of things here, sent them back to them, and they loved it. And that's how that collaboration came together. And the funny thing is, or the nice thing is, they even got to open up for us when we played in Recife on the last day. So that was... It was a lot of fun. As I said, I love the band, I love the music, I love the guys. So it was obvious for me to say yes.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of when artists and musicians do guest spots. Probably Max Cavalera may take it too far on some of his albums where every song has got a guest spot, but occasionally when you hear someone bringing in a new... I was listening to... I'll give you an example. I was listening to the Body Count album last night, and the first song has got Dave Mustaine offering a lyrical narrative, and then I think one of his solos are on it, and I really think it adds a lot to the album.
Cool. I didn't hear that album yet. I still have to check it out. But yeah, I agree. Sometimes those things, those little collaborations can really add something. You spice things up. I also like those things. It's very interesting to hear how some musicians sound, behave, whatever you want to call it, within a different environment. So if you come to the, as you said, Metacross is doing death metal, which I always loved, but I never played myself. And it's just interesting to see if your approach to playing something changes when everything else is different than what you're used to be.
Yeah, actually, it's a really good point, because I had a discussion with, Ralph Santola, who's played in Deicide and Obituary, Iced Earth, and a bunch of other bands. I had a really good chat with Ralph this morning, and he said something which at first I thought was really surprising, because he said he wasn't even into death metal when he first, or worse, the effect of he wasn't into death metal when he first, or he had never played in a death metal band prior to joining Deicide. But if you listen to his solos right the way through The Stench of Redemption, they're probably the best guitar solos on any death metal album ever, in my view. So it's always interesting when some people come into a musical situation with some different ideas and how it enhances the project. And I suggest that your contribution has done the same thing for Metacross.
I hope so. I try to. I was listening to the song several times, trying to find the right spot, and I was sitting here with my guitar in my hand, just fiddling along and see, where something would click for me, where find that spot where I say, okay, that's my spot. I'll play here and, see what comes out of me. And it is very interesting because, yeah, same with Ralph. You said he never played death metal before. He joined D-Side or whatever. And yeah, it still works,
Yeah.
and I like such things. I really like such things.
Yep. Likewise, and look, I have done a bit of research about you because I tend to do that whenever I look forward to these interviews, and I read the oddest and funniest things about. Sorry, you're right.
I said I appreciate this because you prepare yourself. That's good. I like it.
Well, I'll just share with you a story quickly. About 3 weeks ago, up until 3 weeks ago, I have been a telecommunications account executive. Now,
Okay.
it was a pretty well-paying job, if I don't mind saying so. I don't have a source of income at the moment, except for what this turns into, and I feel as though if I keep on approaching it the same way, in terms of my methodology of researching and making sure that I'm engaging these sorts of things when I do these interviews, then I can potentially make a career out of it. So,
Yeah, hey, right attitude, in my opinion. Go for it.
yeah, I know it's my passion. I've sort of got to the point where I realise bands aren't ever going to happen except for playing in local cover bands and the like. And I thought, well, how about I give this a go? And things have just fallen into place. And of course, now I find myself talking to a fantastic guitarist from Germany. Speaking to Ralph Santola this morning, I'm not sure that it gets much better than this.
Hey, that's a great way of starting things, at least.
Yeah,
That's okay.
that's it. And so what I was saying was, when I do my research, I read the oddest and the funniest things about interview subjects on Wikipedia. Now, according to your entry on the page, in September 2004, you broke your leg in 4 places while skateboarding. And following, I don't even know how they'd know this, right? But following the incident, you made a pact with yourself never to skate again, and you sold your skateboard on eBay. How true is that?
That is 100. No, that's 99% true. I broke my leg in 5 places. That's
Right.
the only. But yeah, the funny thing is how this got completely blown out of proportion because people then were saying that, yeah, I'm a skater. And, I even read that I warm up with a skateboard before shows. I don't really see how you can warm up your hands and fingers for
Yes.
playing guitar with a skateboard. But, nothing of this is true. The whole thing is my son had a skateboard back then. And, we were just out on the street, sharing it, having a bit of fun. And I've never skated on a skateboard before in my life. I had rollerblades and I can do this. I'm skiing since I was 3 years old, whatever, all that is perfectly fine. But I never rode a skateboard before. And we did it one day and had fun. It was cool. And the other day, actually the day when it happened, we've been in town and we've been at some kind of shop and they had skateboards hanging on the wall. And my son suggested, hey, why don't you buy one for yourself so we can ride at the same time? And I was like, yeah, cool, let's do it. And I bought that fucking skateboard. And we went home again, went out and rode that thing for about 2 hours. Everything was fine. And then I fell. And that was my 2-hour lasting skateboarding career. And yeah, I never ever touched a skateboard since that day. And I can promise you I never will because that really hurt.
Oh, well, so the entry in Wikipedia is basically precisely correct, except for the breaking your leg in 5 places rather than the 4 that it's got listed. There you go. Okay. Occasionally It does tell the truth.
Yes, sometimes it does.
Yes. All right. So for each of my interview subjects, I have 3 questions that I ask. So I'd love it if you could humour me here and play along. And your answers can be as not safe for work as you like because we are an R-rated program. Okay?
Okay.
So here we go. Choose 3 words to describe yourself.
3 words. Loyal, focused, and very handsome.
There you go. All right, there you go. Second question is, if you could go back to when you were 18 and give yourself some advice, what do you think you'd say?
Go for it. clearly go for it. Because back at that time, that was the time when we started the band and when, we wanted to go for the professional thing. And looking back at the last 30 years, it was the right decision. So yeah, I would go back in time and say, yes, you're doing the right thing. Go for it.
Excellent. Okay. Sounds like you've done that too, by the way. So, yeah, you've lived it.
Yes. Who knows?
All right. Final question. What 5 guests, living or dead, would you invite to dinner?
Dinner. I should focus on people that can cook. But since I have no idea who's a good cook, I would
That's a good
people.
plan.
Yeah, I think so too. Just some excellent chefs and ask them to prepare some nice food. I would invite. Who would I invite? Sticking to the music scene, I would invite some people that played a big role for me over all those years and made me uh, be who I am today. I would invite
Sure.
Tony Iommi because
Nice.
he's always been one of my main influences when it comes to guitar playing. I would invite. I think that's a good way to go. I would definitely invite David Gilmour and Mark Knopfler because they took everything to the next step.
Yes.
Then I would invite Ronnie James Dio for being who he was, and I would invite my wife, and then we're good to go.
Very
Then
thoughtful of
somebody
you. Yep.
cook. Yeah, then somebody has to cook, or we just go out to some restaurant and have a nice evening.
Well, I've never thought to place that caveat in it that someone has to cook, but I might do that from now on. Actually, you've got to choose somebody to cook or something. So you better make sure that they can cook as well as they can play guitar or something.
It might help in the dinner at least.
Well, we're almost out of time, I think, but I want to ask you one more question. Sorry, one question that I probably should have asked earlier, but just a quick one about your relationship with the fans and audiences in Australia.
It's amazing, the fans are a vital part of any Blind Guardian show because no matter what we do on stage, the fans have to be there as well. They have to do the singing and everything. This feedback of energy between fans and band is what makes the show special. It's not just a band playing well. The fans have to play their part as well. And the crowds in Australia are amazing. We always love coming there. We always love coming back. And over the last couple of times, we always have also been very lucky because we had some days off and we could explore Sydney and Melbourne. And we loved it. It was when we first had the chance to come to Austria, which happened rather late in our career. I think the first time we came was 2006, I think.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah.
We've been waiting for that for quite some while because it has been a dream. Literally Australia is the other side of the planet for us,
Yes.
and going there, the traveling, I have to say, sucks because, I remember one time when we flew back I think it was from Sydney back to Düsseldorf, the trip from the moment I left my hotel in Sydney to the moment I put the key in my door here at home was 39 hours.
Yeah, it's a long bloody time, isn't it? Yeah.
Fucking sucks, but it's worth it. It's always worth it. And meeting the people there, the fans, and being able to talk to those guys after their gig or when you run into them during the day when you go sightseeing or whatever, it's priceless. It's a part of what makes touring very, very special and dear to me.
Fantastic. Well, on that note, I'll wrap things up. You've been a pleasure. You've been an outstanding interview subject. I do really appreciate the opportunity to have a chat to you.
It was me as well.
No, thanks, mate, and I look forward to seeing you guys down here in Australia. I'll certainly be in the audience when you tour.
Hey, make sure you come by and say hello.
I will, for sure.
So have a nice evening for you. My day is still starting. And yeah, talk to you whenever we hit back to Australia.
Absolutely, mate. All the best and thanks very much, eh?
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series. Hope you've enjoyed it. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith, and that interview subject was Markus Siepen from the German power metal outfit Blind Guardian. Thank you so much for listening.